Hi, I'm Jen Kobrick. I'm a holistic family consultant with the Consciously Parenting Project, and today I want to talk to you about bringing the conception we have of our child into alignment with the reality of the child we actually have. So this question came up in our book club discussion this week of a parent was saying they're not sure whether their child is high needs or just has normal needs, but that parent doesn't recognize those as being normal needs because they had to repress their own needs as a child. And so they're not sure if what they see from their children is just normal but outside their own experience, or if it is a greater level of need than what is common for other children. And so the thought experiment that I wanted to offer for that parent and for anyone else who finds that it might be helpful is you can ask yourself, how would I respond if this thing I'm wondering about were true? So the reason that can be helpful is that sometimes we have a story in our heads about what we think a child looks like. We all have a mental conception of child. And when what we see in front of us doesn't match that mental conception, it's completely normal to wonder, is there something wrong or different about my child that they don't meet this mental conception? And so when we think of, you are supposed to match this idea I have in my head and you're not, then it can become a pattern where we try to stop or shut down the parts that don't match the conception we have in our head. So, if I'm thinking, children don't need this, and so if you need it, you're not supposed to, and so I'm going to stop you from needing it. And then you'll match this thing I have in my head and everything will go more smoothly and everything will be easy. And if only that worked, things would be so much less complicated. And so then there's this thought experiment where you can say, okay, what if my child is high needs? Would I respond differently to this situation than I am currently responding? And I see this come up a lot when someone is considering whether or not to have a diagnosis for their child. And whether or not the diagnosis itself might be helpful, the thought experiment can be very helpful. If I'm wondering, for example, does my child have sensory processing disorder? And if I have a situation where, let's say I go to a restaurant and my child is totally overwhelmed by the noise and activity going on and completely melts down every time he's in a restaurant. And if I have in my head that this child should be able to go to a restaurant, what's the big deal about going to a restaurant and, sitting there and having a nice meal? This shouldn't be a problem. Then I'm going to be focused on trying to make it stop being a problem, trying to make him conform to the idea I have in my head of what is a normal expectation. If I instead say, I wonder if my child has sensory processing disorder, whether or not he meets the diagnostic criteria, whether or not he ever has that diagnosis, if it changes my expectation to say, now I expect that you're going to have a hard time being in a restaurant and having it be noisy and crowded because that would be a normal thing if I think this different way about you, then instead of trying to shut that need down, I'm going to think about how can we change things? Is it actually necessary that we go to a restaurant or can we bring home takeout? And if it is actually important to me that we go to the restaurant, then maybe you can wear headphones or maybe we can bring a lovey that helps you to feel calmer, or whatever the solution might be, which is going to be different in different situations, different needs, different children, different adults. So I'm not here to tell you this is what you should do, but if you bring into alignment the conception you have of your child in your head with the actual child you have in front of you, that is a space for so much healing and so much connection, because it allows you to see with clarity and compassion, and it allows your child to feel seen and heard and validated, and it gets you out of this pattern of trying to make your child something they're not, and into a space where you can evaluate the real true needs that are there, yours and your child's, and find creative solutions to meet those needs. And when we're focused on whether or not the needs are okay to have, we can't get to finding ways to meet the needs. And when we can have the shift to seeing what's actually here, then we can start to think about how we will respond to what's showing up in front of us. So I hope that's helpful. Feel free to comment. If you know someone else that might find this reframe about needs helpful, feel free to share the video. And if you need additional support or you have questions, please come visit us over at www.consciouslyparenting.com/COVID-19 and join a healing story circle, or find a one-on-one support that can listen and reflect for you with compassion and without judgment. And have a wonderful day.